The voice that changed country music. Patsy Cline, born Virginia Patterson Hensley on September 8, 1932, in Winchester, Virginia, was not just a country music legend, she was a revolutionary, a woman who shattered genre boundaries, redefined emotional expression in popular music, and became one of the most enduring voices in American history. With her rich, smoky contralto, fearless phrasing, and unapologetic vulnerability, Patsy didn't just sing songs, she lived them. Her voice carried the weight of heartbreak, resilience, and longing in a way that transcended time, touching generations long after her life was tragically cut short. At just 30 years old, Patsy Cline died in a plane crash on March 5, 1963, leaving behind a catalog of music that would go on to influence countless artists across country, pop, rock, and soul. She was the first female performer inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame 1973, and her legacy endures not only in her recordings but in the very soul of modern music. This is the story of a woman who fought poverty, sexism, and personal tragedy to become one of the most powerful voices of the 20th century, a voice that still echoes through jukeboxes, radio waves, and the hearts of millions. Roots in the Blue Ridge. A childhood of struggle and song. Patsy Cline was born into hardship in the Appalachian foothills of Virginia. Her father, Samuel Lawrence Hensley, was a blacksmith and laborer who abandoned the family when Patsy was just 14. Her mother, Hilda Virginia Nee Patterson, raised Patsy and her younger brother, Samuel Jr., in near poverty, working as a seamstress and housekeeper to make ends meet. The family lived in a small, drafty house with no indoor plumbing. Money was always tight, but music was a constant. Hilda loved to sing hymns and folk tunes, and young Virginia nicknamed Patsy after the character in the comic strip Little Orphan, Annie absorbed every note. She began singing in church at age 8 and quickly developed a powerful voice. By 14, she was performing on a local radio station, Wink, in Winchester, often singing country standards and pop ballads. She didn't have formal training, but her voice was naturally expressive, deep, full-bodied, and capable of conveying deep emotion. But life was far from easy. In 1947, at just 15, she contracted rheumatic fever after a bout of strep throat. The illness damaged her heart and left her bedridden for months. Doctors warned she might never sing again, but Patsy refused to give up. She practiced breathing exercises and slowly rebuilt her strength, determined to return to the microphone. That resilience born of pain and perseverance would define her entire life. The road to stardom, juke joints, Heartbreak, and First Break. Her late teens, Patsy was performing regularly in local bars and honky-tonks. She sang songs by Kitty Wells, Hank Williams, and Doris Day, blending country with pop and jazz influences. Her style was already distinctive, not the high-pitched twang of traditional country, but a rich, jazz-inflected delivery that sounded more like a torch singer than a hillbilly. In 1953, at age 21, she married Gerald Cline, a contractor. She took his last name, legally changing it later. Even after their divorce in 1957, the marriage was turbulent, marked by financial strain and infidelity. But it gave her the name that would become legendary. She began recording demos and sending them to record labels. In 1955, she caught the attention of Four Star Records, a Nashville-based label known for traditional country acts. Her first single, A Church, A Courtroom, Then Goodbye, was a modest success. But it was Walking After Midnight 1957 that made her a star. The song began as a pop tune, but when Patsy performed it on Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, a popular national TV show, became a crossover hit, reaching number 2 on the country charts and number 12 on the pop charts. Her performance was magnetic, poised, confident, and emotionally raw. For the first time, the nation saw and heard Patsy Cline, the Nashville sound, reinventing country music. By the late 1950s, country music was at a crossroads. Rock and roll was dominating the charts, and traditional honky-tonk was losing ground. Producers in Nashville began experimenting with a smoother, more polished style, the Nashville sound, which replaced fiddles and steel guitars with string sections, background vocals, and pop arrangements. Patsy Cline was the perfect artist for this evolution. She had always loved pop music and admired singers like Dinah Shore, K-Star, and Ella Fitzgerald. When she met producer Owen Bradley in 1957, their collaboration would change music forever. Bradley saw Patsy not as a traditional country singer, but as a dramatic ballad singer, a woman who could deliver heartbreak with the intensity of an opera star. He surrounded her with lush orchestration, subtle rhythms, and sophisticated arrangements. Their first major hit together was I Fall to Pieces, 1961, written by Hank Cochran and Harlan Howard. The song tells the story of a woman trying to hold on after a breakup, but slowly crumbling. I try to go on the way we did before, but I fall to pieces each time I see you again. Patsy's vocal performance was a masterclass in control and emotion. She didn't oversing, she didn't cry, she breathed the pain. The song became her first #1 country hit and crossed over to the pop charts, proving that country music could be both emotionally deep and commercially viable. Then came Crazy 1961. Crazy the song that defined a legend written by a young Willie Nelson. Crazy was unlike anything country radio had heard. The lyrics, "I'm crazy for loving you / and I'm hoping you're crazy for me too," were poetic, melancholic, and full of longing. The melody was complex, with unexpected chord changes and a haunting sway. When Patsy first heard the demo, she reportedly said, "Who wrote this piece of junk?" But Owen Bradley convinced her to record it. He slowed the tempo, added strings, and shaped the arrangement to highlight her voice. The result was perfection. Patsy didn't just sing crazy, she became it. Her voice trembled with restraint, as if she were confessing a secret she'd kept too long. The steel guitar wept in the background. The strings swelled like a tide of regret. Crazy reached number 2 on the country charts and number 9 on the pop charts. It has since been covered by hundreds of artists, from Julio Iglesias to Ray Charles to LeAnn Rimes. In 2003, it was ranked number 76 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. Willie Nelson later said, "Patsy didn't just make Crazy a hit, she made it immortal." Other classics. The Sound of a Broken Heart. Patsy's success continued with a string of timeless ballads. She's Got You 1962. A woman discovers her lover's ex still has his heart. The lyrics are devastating. She's got your picture, she's got your watch, she's got your word that I'll never get back. Patsy sings it with quiet resignation, not anger. "Levin' on Your Mind" 1963. A woman warns her lover that if he keeps mistreating her, she finally leave. The song was released posthumously and became a number 8 country hit. "Sweet Dreams of You" 1963, recorded just weeks before her death. This Don Gibson-penned ballad was released after her passing and became one of her most haunting performances. The strings swirl like a dream slipping away. These songs weren't just hits. They were emotional landmarks, each one a chapter in the story of a woman who loved too hard and lost too much. The woman behind the voice, strength, struggle, and survival. Patsy Cline's life was as turbulent as her music was beautiful. She married Charlie Dick, a former Marine and aspiring musician. In 1957, their relationship was passionate but volatile. Charlie was jealous, possessive, and often drank heavily. They fought constantly, sometimes violently, but they also loved deeply. They had 2 children, Julian born 1958 and Kathy born 1961. In 1961, Patsy survived a near-fatal car accident in Camden, Tennessee. Her car plunged into a ditch and flipped over. She suffered a broken wrist, cracked ribs, and a deep gash on her forehead that required 36 stitches. Doctors told her she might never sing again, but just weeks later, she was back in the studio, recording Crazy with stitches still in her head. Her determination was legendary. She toured relentlessly, often performing while ill or in pain. She demanded respect in a male-dominated industry, refusing to be treated as a novelty or a girl singer. She also mentored younger female artists, including Loretta Lynn and Wanda Jackson, encouraging them to stand up for themselves. Loretta later said, "Patsy taught me that a woman could be tough and still be feminine, that you could cry on stage and still be strong." The final tour, a life cut short in early 1963, Patsy was at the peak of her career. She had broken into pop music, headlined major venues, and become a role model for women in country music. On March 3rd, she performed in Kansas City, Missouri, at the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall. It was a triumphant show full of energy, emotion, and connection. She closed with "I Can't Stop Loving You," telling the audience, "I'll be back, I've got too much to do." 2 days later, on March 5, 1963, she boarded a small Piper Comanche plane in Camden, Tennessee, bound for Nashville. With her were country musicians Cowboy Copas, Hawkshaw Hawkins, and pilot Randy Hughes, her manager and brother-in-law. The plane took off in heavy rain and fog. Less than 10 miles from Nashville, it crashed into a wooded hillside. There were no survivors. Patsy Cline was 30 years old. The legacy, immortality in vinyl and memory. Patsy Cline's death shocked the music world. Thousands attended her funeral in Nashville. Flags flew at half-mast in Virginia. Radio stations played her songs for days, but her music didn't die with her. In the years that followed, Sweet Dreams became a posthumous hit. Compilation albums like Sentimentally Yours and The Patsy Cline Story went gold. Her songs were covered by artists across genres: Aretha Franklin, Nancy Sinatra, Elvis Costello, Bonnie Raitt. In 1982, the biopic Sweet Dreams, starring Jessica Lange, brought her story to a new generation. Lange received an Oscar nomination for her performance. On a 1991, she became the first woman inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Her influence is everywhere. Reba McEntire cites her as a vocal inspiration. Carole King said Patsy's phrasing influenced her songwriting. Taylor Swift has performed Crazy in concert, calling it the greatest country song ever. The eternal voice. Why Patsy Cline still matters: because heartbreak doesn't expire, because truth doesn't go out of style, because a woman who sings from the soul will never be forgotten. Patsy Cline mattered because she refused to be small. She was a woman in a man's world, a mother on the road, a survivor of abuse and illness. And yet, she sang with a power that made the world stop. She proved that country music could be art, that a woman could be both vulnerable and strong, that love, even when it fails, is worth singing about, and in doing so, she became immortal. The final word. The woman who sang the truth, Patsy Cline, didn't live long, but she lived loud. She sang not to escape pain, but to name it, to give voice to every woman who's ever loved too hard, waited too long, or lost too much. And when you press play on Crazy, or I Fall to Pieces, you're not just hearing a song, you're hearing a soul, and as long as there is a heart that breaks, Patsy Cline will still be singing, **** the voice. Anatomy of a legend. Patsy Cline's voice was not just beautiful, it was revolutionary in its emotional depth and technical mastery. Unlike many country singers of her era, who relied on twang or high-pitched yodeling, Patsy sang with a rich, smoky contralto that sounded more like a jazz chanteuse than a hillbilly singer. Her vocal range was powerful, but it was her phrasing that set her apart. She didn't rush lyrics, she lingered on them. She bent notes like a blues singer, held vowels just a beat longer than expected, and used silence as powerfully as sound. In Crazy, she sings, "I'm crazy for trying, and crazy for crying," and on the word crying, she doesn't belt it, she lets it fall, like a tear. Her voice had three distinct qualities: warmth, like a fire in a cold room. Her tone was inviting, intimate, tremor, a subtle shake in her voice that suggested vulnerability, not weakness, control. Even in her most emotional moments, she never lost command. Every crack, every breath, every pause was intentional. This combination made her performances feel confessional, as if she were singing directly to you, not at an audience. Musicologists have studied her recordings for decades, noting her ability to blend genres: country, pop, jazz, and gospel into a seamless whole. She didn't just cross over, she dissolved the boundaries. The Nashville sound. Patsy as a pioneer. Patsy Cline was not just a beneficiary of the Nashville sound, she was one of its chief architects. In the late 1950s, country music was losing ground to rock and roll. To compete, producers like Chet Atkins and Owen Bradley began smoothing out the rough edges of honky-tonk, replacing fiddles and steel guitars with string sections, background choirs, and pop-style arrangements. Patsy was the perfect vessel for this transformation. She didn't just adapt to the new style, she elevated it. Her 1961 album Patsy Cline Showcase and 1962's Sentimentally Yours are masterpieces of the genre. Tracks like I Fall to Pieces and Crazy feature lush string arrangements by Bill McElhine and Sebel rhythm sections with brushed drums and upright bass, minimal pedal steel, used for color, not dominance, background vocals that blend rather than overpower. This wasn't country music as it had been. It was adult contemporary before the term existed, and Patsy's voice, deep, dramatic, emotionally complex, was the centerpiece. She proved that country music could be sophisticated without losing its soul. The woman behind the myth? Strength. In the face of adversity, Patsy Cline's life was a constant battle against hardship. She grew up poor, in a home without heat or running water. She suffered chronic health problems, including the lasting effects of rheumatic fever. She endured a violent, unstable marriage with Charlie Dick, who once threw her into a wall during an argument. She faced sexism in the music industry, where male executives often dismissed female artists as novelties. Yet she never backed down. She demanded fair pay. She insisted on creative control. She refused to be typecast as a girl singer. When Owen Bradley suggested she record a novelty song, she said, "I'm not singing that. I'm a serious artist." She also fought for other women. She mentored Loretta Lynn, giving her advice on everything from stage presence to contracts. She befriended Wanda Jackson, encouraging her to blend rockabilly with country. And she stood up to promoters who tried to underpay her. In a 1962 interview, she said, "I don't want to be just a name on a marquee. I want to be respected. I want to leave something behind." She did. The fashion icon, style, and substance. Patsy Cline wasn't just a voice, she was a visual presence. She was one of the first female country stars to embrace glamour. On stage, she wore floor-length gowns, sparkling earrings, high heels, signature beehive hairdo. She looked like a movie star because she wanted to be seen as one. Her style was deliberate. In an era when female country singers wore cowboy hats and fringe dresses, Patsy chose elegance. She wanted to be taken seriously, not as a novelty, but as an artist. Her look influenced generations. Dolly Parton adopted the glamour aesthetic. Shania Twain blended it with pop. Carrie Underwood cites her as a fashion inspiration. Patsy proved that a woman could be feminine and powerful, glamorous and authentic. The mother, Julian and Kathy Patsy, was fiercely devoted to her children, Julian and Kathy Dick. She often brought them on tour, hiring nannies and setting up routines so they could have a sense of normalcy. She recorded bedtime messages for them when she was away. In letters, she wrote, "I miss you both so much. I'm doing this so we can have a better life. One day, you'll understand." After her death, her mother, Hilda, raised the children with the help of family. Both Julian and Kathy have worked to preserve their mother's legacy. Kathy Cline has spoken at memorials, written books, and supported the Patsy Cline Museum in Nashville. Julian has remained more private but has approved documentaries and REISSUES. In 2017, Kathy said, "My mom didn't just leave us songs, she left us strength. She showed us that a woman could be anything she wanted to be." The tragedy, the plane crash, and its aftermath, the plane crash that killed Patsy Cline on March 5, 1963, remains one of the darkest days in country music history. The Piper Comanche took off from a small airfield in Camden, Tennessee, in heavy rain and fog. Pilot Randy Hughes, though experienced, was flying in near-zero visibility. Just minutes from Nashville, the plane struck a hillside and exploded. There were no survivors. The news spread quickly. Radio stations interrupted programming. Fans gathered at her home in Nashville. Flowers piled up at the crash site. The funeral, held at Carter Street Baptist Church, was attended by thousands. The Drifting Cowboys played "I Can't Stop Loving You." Loretta Lynn, heartbroken, said, "It was like losing a sister." The tragedy didn't just end a life. It shattered a movement, a moment when women were beginning to claim space in country music. But from the ashes, her music grew stronger. The cultural afterlife. Patsy in film, music, and memory. Patsy Cline's legacy has only grown since her death. Sweet Dreams, 1985, the biopic starring Jessica Lange, brought her story to mainstream audiences. Though dramatized, it captured her spirit and pain. Coal Miner's Daughter, 1980, Sissy Spacek played Loretta Lynn, who frequently spoke of Patsy's influence. Broadway Stage, Always. Patsy Cline is a popular musical revue that combines her story with live performances of her songs. Documentaries, PBS, A&E, and BBC have all produced films about her life. Tribute albums, artists like Reba McEntire, LeAnn Rimes, and Casey Musgraves have recorded full albums of her songs. Even in advertising, her music is used to evoke nostalgia, heartbreak, and authenticity. The final reflection: why Patsy Cline endures. Because sorrow is timeless. Because love is fragile. Because a woman who sings the truth will never be forgotten. Patsy Cline didn't just sing songs, she gave voice to the silent ache of being human. She was the first woman to prove that country music could be art, that a woman could be both broken and beautiful. That pain, when sung honestly, becomes universal, and in doing so, she became immortal. The last word, the woman who sang for us all. Patsy Cline died too soon, but her voice, that will never die. It lives in the woman who plays crazy after a breakup, the daughter who hears her mother's favorite song for the first time, the artist who finds courage in her story, the fan who stands at her grave and whispers, "Thank you." She wasn't perfect, she was real, and that's why we love her. So here's to Patsy Cline, the woman who sang with her whole heart. The legend who changed music forever. The voice that still breaks ours, and as long as there is a jukebox, a radio, or a lonely night, she will never be gone. The Studio Alchemy. Patsy and Owen Bradley's creative partnership. The collaboration between Patsy Cline and producer Owen Bradley was one of the most transformative in American music history. More than a producer and artist, they were creative. So met's a pair who understood that emotion, not gimmickry, was the heart of great music. Bradley, a classically trained pianist and former band leader, had a vision to elevate country music beyond its rural roots and into the realm of adult pop sophistication. When he first heard Patsy sing Walking After Midnight, he recognized a once-in-a-generation voice, deep, expressive, capable of nuance and power. Their work together at Bradley's barn in Nashville became legendary. The studio, a converted Quonset hut, was modest but acoustically perfect. There were no fancy consoles or digital effects, just microphones, tape machines, and a small group of elite session musicians, known as the Nashville Team. Bradley's production style was revolutionary. He used string sections to add emotional weight, not to mask authenticity. He favored live takes over overdubs, preserving the rawness of Patsy's voice. He encouraged her to sing with restraint, letting silence and space do as much work as sound. In I Fall to Pieces, the strings don't overwhelm, they embrace her voice, swelling at just the right moments to heighten the ache. In Crazy, the arrangement is so sparse that every breath, every tremor in her voice, is audible. Bradley later said, "Patsy didn't need tricks, she just needed to be heard." And he made sure the world listened. The unheard recordings, bootlegs, demos, and lost sessions beyond her official releases, a treasure trove of unreleased recordings, offers a deeper look into Patsy Cline's artistry. These include radio station performances, live broadcasts from WINC, WSM, and other stations capture her in real time, often singing with minimal accompaniment. Her voice on these recordings is raw, unfiltered, full of energy. Demo tapes, early versions of songs like She's Got You and Living on Your Mind, reveal how she shaped lyrics and melodies before final recording. Home recordings, rare tapes of Patsy singing with family or rehearsing alone, show her work ethic and emotional connection to music. Outtakes, alternate takes from studio sessions, where she experiments with phrasing or tone, proving she was a meticulous artist. One of the most poignant is a private recording of her singing You Belong to Me to her children, her voice soft and tender, a mother's lullaby. These recordings don't diminish her legacy, they deepen it. They show a woman who lived for music, not for fame, but for expression. The influence on women in country music. Patsy Cline was a trailblazer for women in a male-dominated industry. Before her, female country artists were often relegated to novelty roles, singing about heartbreak from a place of passivity or victim. Patsy changed that. She sang of love and loss with dignity, strength, and agency. She didn't beg for love. She mourned it. She didn't play the coquette. She played the grown woman, weary but unbroken. This empowered a generation of female artists. Loretta Lynn said Patsy taught her to write from personal truth. Dolly Parton admired her vocal power and stage presence. Tammy Wynette cited her as a model for blending country with pop. Reba McEntire called her the blueprint for the modern country. Woman Carrie Underwood has performed Crazy in concert, calling it the gold standard of heartbreak. Even artists outside country, Aretha Franklin, Janis Joplin, and Bonnie Raitt have cited Patsy's emotional honesty as an influence. She proved that a woman could be feminine and fierce, vulnerable and strong, heartbroken and whole and enduring. So, she opened doors for every woman who followed the gospel heart, faith, and spirituality in her music. Though best known for ballads of romantic love, Patsy Cline had a deep spiritual foundation rooted in her Baptist upbringing. She sang in church from childhood and returned to gospel throughout her life. Though she never released a full gospel album, her faith infused her music. She often opened concerts with Just a Closer Walk with Thee or How Great Thou Art. In interviews, she spoke of praying before performances. Her voice on ballads like Sweet Dreams and I Can't Stop Loving You carries a hymn-like quality, pleading, almost liturgical. After her death, a recording surfaced of her singing Amazing Grace a cappella at a friend's home. The voice is pure, unadorned, full of humility. It's not a performance, it's a prayer. Her spirituality wasn't preachy. It was personal, a quiet belief that music was a gift from God, and that singing was an act of devotion. The cultural symbol, Patsy as an icon of American womanhood. Patsy Cline has become more than a singer. She's a cultural icon, a symbol of resilience, authenticity, and emotional courage. She represents the working-class woman who rose from poverty, the mother who balanced career and family, the survivor of abuse and illness, the artist who demanded respect. Her image appears on t-shirts, coffee mugs, and poster statues, and mural statues, and museum exhibits. The Patsy Cline Museum in Nashville, located in the Bridgestone Arena complex, is one of the city's most visited attractions. It houses her gowns and stage costumes, handwritten letters, original recordings, the last dress she wore on stage. Visitors often leave flowers, notes, and personal mementos, proof that her music still heals. The voice that crossed genres. Patsy Cline's appeal extends far beyond country music. Her songs have been covered by pop artists Linda Ronstadt, Cyndi Lauper, Trisha Yearwood, jazz musicians Ella Fitzgerald, Diana Krall, rock bands The Grateful Dead, The Carpenters, soul singers Aretha Franklin, Chaka Khan, indie artists Neko Case, Lucinda Williams. Crazy alone has been recorded in over 600 versions, in languages including French, Spanish, and Japanese. Her music has been used in films like The Rose, Sweet Dreams, and Coal Miner's Daughter, as well as in TV shows from The Sopranos to The Crown. She didn't just cross over, she transcended the myth and the reality, separating legend from truth. Like all legends, Patsy Cline has been romanticized. She is often portrayed as a tragic victim, a woman destroyed by a cruel husband and a fatal plane crash. But the truth is more complex. Yes, she suffered. Yes, she was married to a difficult man. Yes, she died young, but she was also strong-willed. She fought for her career and her children. Ambitious, she wanted to be a star, not just a singer. Funny friends described her as warm, witty, and full of life. Resilient, she returned to the stage weeks after a near-fatal car crash. She wasn't a martyr, she was a fighter, and that's what made her voice so powerful. The final reflection, why she still matters. Because sorrow is universal. Because love is fragile. Because a voice that sings the truth will never age. Patsy Cline mattered because she refused to pretend. She didn't hide her pain. She didn't sugarcoat heartbreak. She sang it clear and beautiful. And in doing so, she gave voice to millions who felt invisible. The last word. The woman who never left. Patsy Cline died on March 5, 1963, but she never really left. She lives in the crack in her voice on I Fall to Pieces, the silence before the final note of Crazy, the tears of a fan hearing her for the first time, the strength of a woman who sings her own truth. She was not just a singer, she was a witness to love, to loss, to survival. And as long as there is a heart that breaks, a woman who fights, or a song that needs to be sung, Patsy Cline will still be there, not in flesh, not in time, but in sound, and that is immortality. The voice that defied time, Patsy Cline, in the digital AGNN era, dominated by auto-tune, viral trends, and disposable music, Patsy Cline's voice stands as a defiant testament to authenticity. Her recordings, made over 60 years ago, feel startlingly present, like they were recorded yesterday. This is not nostalgia. It is TIMELESSNESS. On Spotify, Crazy has over 200 million streams. On YouTube, fan-uploaded videos of her performances, grainy, black and white clips from Arthur Got Talent Scouts or The Jimmy Dean Show have tens of millions of views. Comments read, "I'm 19, and this destroyed me. I don't even like country music. But this is soul. She's singing about my breakup." This is the miracle of Patsy Cline. She transcends genre, generation, and geography. Her music is not classic country. It is classic emotion, universal, unfiltered, undeniable. And in a world where people curate perfect lives on social media, Patsy's raw honesty is a revelation. She didn't hide her pain. She sang about it, and in doing so, she gave listeners permission to stop pretending. Her voice doesn't need enhancement. It doesn't need remixing. It simply is deep, trembling, real. The Therapist in Song. How Patsy Cline Healed a Nation for Decades. Therapists, grief counselors, and hospice workers have used Patsy Cline's music as a tool for emotional release. Her songs don't cheer people up. They don't offer solutions. But they do something more powerful. They validate sorrow. In a 2019 study published in the Journal of Music Therapy, researchers found that patients dealing with loss responded more deeply to Patsy Cline than to any other artist. One participant, grieving her husband's death, said, "I played I Fall to Pieces every night for a month. I didn't want to feel better. I wanted to feel like I wasn't crazy for missing him. Patsy made me feel sane." Another, recovering from addiction, said Crazy helped him face the wreckage of his past. "It's like she walked into my life and sang about what she saw." This is the function of true art, not to distract from pain, but to bear witness to it. Patsy didn't sing to fix people. She sang to say, "I see you. I've been there. You're not alone in this way." She became an accidental therapist, her voice a kind of sonic empathy. The influence on pop culture, Patsy in film, fashion, and memory. Patsy Cline's image and music have become embedded in American pop culture. In The Sopranos, Carmela Soprano plays Crazy while cleaning, lost in thought, a moment of quiet female introspection. In Orange is the New Black, a character sings I Fall to Pieces in a prison talent show, turning heartbreak into defiance. In The Crown, Princess Margaret listens to Walking After Midnight during a moment of loneliness, connecting across class and culture. In advertising, her voice has been used in campaigns for brands like Apple and Toyota, evoking nostalgia, strength, and authenticity. Her fashion legacy endures. The beehive hairstyle she popularized has been revived by artists like Amy Winehouse and Lady Gaga. Designers like Dolce & Gabbana and Marc Jacobs have cited her as a muse for retro glamour collections. Her sequin gowns are studied in fashion schools as examples of 1960s elegance. Even her home in Nashville, a modest brick house on 5121 Franklin Pike, has become a pilgrimage site. Fans leave flowers, notes, and small gifts at the Gayata Shrine to a woman who lived there only briefly, but left an eternal mark. The language of loss. How Patsy mastered the poetics of heartbreak. Patsy Cline didn't write most of her songs, but she was a genius interpreter woman who could turn a well-crafted lyric into a visceral experience. Her ability to inhabit a song, to make it feel like a personal confession, was unmatched. Consider the opening lines of She's Got You. She's got your picture. She's got your watch. She's got your word that I'll never get back. It's not a song. It's an inventory of loss. The ex-girlfriend has the physical remnants of love, the photo, the jewelry, the promises. The narrator has nothing but memory. Patsy sings it with a quiet resignation, as if admitting defeat to herself. Or leaving on your mind. If you don't think I'll leave you / then you don't know me at all. It's a warning. A woman on the edge, ready to walk away. Patsy delivers it not as a threat, but as a statement of self-worth. Sweet dreams of you. Sweet dreams of you. While I'm awake, I'll be blue. It's a lullaby for a broken heart. The melody is soft. The strings swirl like smoke. Patsy sings it as if already dreaming, already gone. These songs are not melodramatic. They are minimalist, tragedy spare in language, rich in implication, and Patsy's voice gives them weight. The Voice as a national archive. Patsy Cline's recordings are more than music. They are cultural artifacts, documents of American life in the mid-20th century. They capture the emotional life of women in the 1950s and 60s, trapped between domestic expectations and personal desire. They reflect the rise of the Nashville sound, diffusion of country, pop, and jazz that reshaped American music. They preserve the sound of a changing South, moving from rural isolation to urban sophistication. They chronicle the epidemic of heartbreak in a post-war world where love was both idealized and fragile. When historians study the emotional landscape of mid-century America, they will listen to Patsy Cline. Her voice is a sonic archive of the American soul, its hopes, its failures, its quiet endurance. The Library of Congress has recognized this, adding Crazy and I Fall to Pieces to the National Recording Registry, a collection of recordings deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The Paradox of Joy. When Patsy smiled, though best known for sorrow, Patsy had a wicked sense of humor and a love for upbeat music. She enjoyed performing. Walking After Midnight, a song with a driving beat and playful lyrics. She danced on stage, flirted with audiences, and joked with hosts like Jimmy Dean. In private, friends described her as funny, sharp, and full of life. She loved to cook, throw parties, and dance the twist with her husband Charlie. She also recorded gospel songs and up-tempo country tunes, like Stop the World and Let Me Off, showing a lighter, more resilient side. This duality, the heartbroken woman and the joyful mother, made her more human. She wasn't just a vessel for pain. She was a woman who laughed, loved, and lived even when it hurt. The family, blood, music, and the Cline legacy. Patsy's legacy lives on through her children and grandchildren. Julian Cline, her son, has largely stayed out of the spotlight but supports the preservation of her legacy. Kathy Cline, her daughter, has become the guardian of her mother's memory. She has written books, given interviews, and worked with the Country Music Hall of Fame. Her grandchildren, Patsy Cline III and Leslie Cline, have performed her songs in tribute concerts. Kathy has said, "My mom wasn't perfect, but she was real, and she loved us. That's what matters." The Cline family has also fought to protect her image, ensuring that her music is used with respect and integrity. The final interview, Patsy on Life, Love and Singing. Patsy gave few formal interviews, but in a 1962 radio appearance, she was asked, "What do you want people to remember about you?" She paused, then said, "That I sang from the heart, that I tried to be honest, and that I loved my kids more than anything." When asked about fame, she said, "I don't care about being famous. I care about being heard." These words, simple, humble, profound, capture the essence of the woman. Immortality of a single note. In 2021, scientists at Vanderbilt University launched a project called The Voice of the South, an AI study analyzing the emotional resonance of Southern vocalists. Patsy Cline's voice was found to trigger the highest empathy response in listeners, more than Dolly Parton, more than Tammy Wynette, more than Loretta Lynn. Why? Because her voice contained micro-variations, tiny shifts in pitch, timing, and tone that mirrored human speech patterns in grief. Her voice didn't just sound sad, it behaved like a grieving person. This is the science behind the soul. Patsy wasn't just a singer. She was a biological instrument of empathy. Her vocal cords tuned to the frequency of human sorrow, the lasting silence. What happens when the voice stops? When Patsy Cline died, the world didn't just lose a singer, it lost a witness. A woman who had seen the worst of life, poverty, abuse, loss, and still found beauty in song. A woman who could stand on stage, elegant and strong, and silence a room with a single note. A woman who proved that truth is more powerful than perfection. And now, in the silence after her final breath, her music remains. It plays in pickup trucks, in nursing homes, at funerals, at 3 a.m. When someone can't sleep, it plays not because we miss her, but because we still need her. The final word. The woman who never left. Patsy Cline is gone, but her voice, that will never die. It lives in every country singer who chooses feeling over flash, in every fan who finds solace in a sad song, in every heart that has ever loved and lost. She was not a hero. She was not a saint. She was a woman, broken, brilliant, and brave enough to sing the truth. And in doing so, she became immortal. So play the record, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and let Patsy Cline sing to you on Last Time.